Welcome back, 6th graders. Today our objective is students will be able to demonstrate how the atoms in solids, liquids, and gases can change. And our focus words are solid, liquid, and gas. Go ahead and pause the video right now if you need some extra time to write down your objective and focus words, and then press play to move on. Okay, so we are learning about solid, liquid, and gas today. So let's talk about what those words mean. Solid are things that have their own shape and their own volume. That means they don't change size. So things that are solids are a pencil, books, Legos, and things that are like those. So they're usually hard and they don't change shape. And this is what the atoms in a solid look like. Let's take a closer look at those solid atoms. So we can see when I click solid, the atoms in solid, they're stuck together. And this right here, this is neon. You can find that on your periodic table. This is what the atoms in argon look like. You can see they're still stuck together when they're solid. Here is oxygen. The solid oxygen molecules are stuck together. And here is water. All of those molecules are stuck together. So that is what the atoms look like in a solid. Liquid is a little bit different. In a liquid, the atoms are a little bit looser. They're not as stuck together. So that means that even though liquids have their own volume, they don't change the amount of space that they take up. They do change their shape. So they take the shape of their container. So, like for example, this smoothie is a liquid because if I take this short, fat smoothie and I pour it into the tall, skinny glass, it's going to change shape into a tall, skinny liquid. So the shape can change. It takes the shape of their container. And this is what the atoms look like. And we can take a closer look at the atoms. So let's look at neon again. This is solid. If I click liquid, we can see that the atoms are not as stuck together. They can move around a little bit more and their shape changes. Same with argon. Same with the oxygen molecules. Their shape changes. They're a little bit looser. And water as well. And they're moving faster too. Do you see that? So that is what liquid looks like. Gas is the last state of matter we're going to talk about. Gases take the shape and volume of their containers, and that is because the atoms in gas are going crazy. Let's look at them. The atoms in gas look like this. They're flying everywhere. They spread out, they bounce off the walls, they hit each other. It doesn't matter what type of gas it is, what type of atoms. If they're a gas, they're going crazy. They're really spread out. See that? Let's look at water. There we go. They're going crazy. Those are the gas atoms. So those are our three states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. And we're going to take a moment to draw the pictures of the atoms in solid, liquids, and gases so that we can get those really clear in our minds before we move on. So here's how I would like you to do that. I would like you to think about what the atoms in, first let's start with solid look like. You see here that they're all stuck together. So we are going to draw little circles because that's what atoms are. All stuck together. There we go. And they should be very close, sticking together. There we go. And then when you draw your liquid, they should be a little bit farther apart. And they should be more loose. So let's draw our liquid atoms a little farther apart. Just like that. And then remember gas, all the atoms are going crazy. So when you draw your gas atoms, make sure you draw them really far apart. Like that. Alright, go ahead and pause the video if you need to so that you can draw your atoms and then press play when you are ready to move on. Alright, let's talk about what some examples of solid, liquid, and gas might be. And since our objective was to demonstrate how they can change, let's start to talk about that. So we are going to play this game. We are going to read the directions, and then we are going to follow them together. So this says, click the red button to heat the ice. So here's some ice in here. And then it says, what happens when the temperature reaches 0 degrees Celsius? So if we look at what's going on in this picture, we have some ice in a beaker. We can heat the ice or we can cool the ice. And it tells us the temperature and it tells us what state of matter it is. So this ice is a solid. So that actually means that we can write down for our example of solid, ice. That'd be a really good example. And then we will go ahead and go back. And this says what happens when the temperature reaches 0 degrees. So we're going to heat it up. Let's see what happens. If I press the heat button, there we go, 0 degrees. Oh, and the ice melted. It turned into water, which it says right here is a liquid. So let's go ahead and write that for our example of liquid. A good example of liquid is water. And then we can look back. The ice, when I heated it up, melted into a liquid. And let's move on. And now it says, can you turn the water back into ice again? Does ice take up a bigger or smaller volume than water? Let's just figure out how could we turn the water back into ice again. Would we need to heat it or cool it? Alright, I hope you said cool it because that's what I'm going to do. Let's see what happens when we cool the water. Oh, and it went back to 0 degrees and now it's a solid again. It's ice again. So if we cool the water, it turns back into ice. It freezes. Alright, now click the red button to heat the water. What happens to the water when the temperature reaches 100 degrees? So let's turn this back into water. Alright, now we've got liquid water. It says, click the red button to heat the water. Alright, let's see what happens when we heat the water. Oh, whoa. What is going on? Alright, it turned into gas. Have you ever seen water boiling on a stove like it did in here? So it should have looked like that, like steam or smoke coming out, and that is the gas. So we're going to write that down for our example of gas, steam. Oh, wrong one. And we can see that when we heat up liquid, it turns into gas. So that's how liquid can change into gas. Let's see what else we should do. Okay, now it says, can you turn the steam back to water again? So let's see. If I went last time to go backwards, I did the opposite thing. I cooled it off. So let's try cooling off the steam and see what happens. Oh, look at that. It turned back into liquid water. Very interesting. So we just showed that when we heat and cool solid, liquid, and gas, they can change into something else. So what I'm going to ask you to do now is read the next directions. They should tell you to click on a button that will bring you to this game. I want you to follow the directions and play the game. And as you do that, make sure you write down what you observe. Make sure you write down what you see when you heat the solid, when you cool off the liquid, and when you cool off the gas. What does it turn into? Alright, make sure that you've copied down your table. You know I will be checking, and I will see you at small group time.